who are not here, bienvenidos, welcome, y bienvenidas, welcome. You'll find out why we say bienvenidos and bienvenidas a little bit later today. Okay, muy bien. Quiero decirles, I want to tell you guys is the les of decirles. Quiero decirles, I want to tell you guys that in this book, for like extra practice, there is a pronunciation guide, una guía de pronunciación. Está en la página, it's on page, está en la página 166, it's on page 166. 166, 166. And it goes on for about, I don't know, maybe 6 pages, seis páginas. It goes on for about 6 pages. So there's some extra information. One kind of helpful thing they do with the vowels is they show you vowels that slide together, like you had in that word to practice this week, flauta, the a, u, that go together. When I and e go together, like with the word bien, B-I-E, B-E-E. Gotta think which letters I'm spelling in. B-E-E-N, B-E-E-N, bien. So they show you how things sound when those vowels slide together. When you get 2 vowels that go together, like the a and the u of flauta, or the I and the e and the e of bien, we generally slide those sounds together. That means you'll try to say them as seamlessly sliding together as possible. Okay, entonces, an example. For the word flauta, you don't pronounce it flauta. The a and the u, you say them as fluidly together as you can. Flauta. Bien, okay. And the word bien, not bien. You do pronounce both vowels, but we slide them together as much as possible. Bien. The only time you will not slide vowels together if 2 vowels are next to each other is if you have an accent mark on one of the 2 vowels. And I'll point that out when we come up to it. An accent mark, para que sepan, so you know, when you see things written with an accent mark does not change the sound of the vowel. And accent marks in Spanish only come on vowels. They can only be on vowels in Spanish. An accent mark does not change the sound of the vowel, but it changes how much punch you put in the syllable. So putting the emphasis on the right syllable can be a thing, okay? That's a thing. Okay, so if you see an accent mark, you punch that syllable a little bit harder than the others. Like we say the word examination, not examination. Okay, like that. Bien. Para que sepan, just so you know. So you've got a little pronunciation guide, be aware of that. ¿Qué vamos a hacer hoy? What are we going to do today? Today is going to start to blend things because it is really hard to translate things word for word because words start to mash together. Wow, that's kind of scary. It is. It's going to sound a lot of times like I'm throwing ideas at you that are disconnected, but they're really not. What happens is many ideas get wrapped up in whole phrases, and it's very hard to translate word for word. So we're going to work on the following things today. And if you have any other questions, always feel free to interrupt me, because sometimes it's important to get that idea out. Here's the ideas we're going to cover today are we're going to keep going with some of the pronunciation. Okay, so I do want you to have, and I'm going to do a share screen with you. Hold on. Boom, 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 boom. I do want you to have handy this page with those vowels, and the page we're going to look at the most, actually there are two pages. We're going to look at that che sound, the de sound, and then the h, the h, the jota, the j, the l, it's a double L, the ñ, and que, and keki. So this is going to be two pages. So whether you choose to bring up a second screen that's just got that online, which is fine, or you want to bring them up as paper pages, that's fine. We're going to work on those particular sounds that those particular letters make. And the reason I take them in this order is that many of these, except for che, and kind of except for de. Many of them make sounds that we are not accustomed to in English, okay? You know, the M in Spanish is always going to sound like a m, 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 m. The N without the little squiggle on the top, without the squiggle on the top, is going to sound like n, 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 okay? The T is going to sound like t, t, t. It's less explosive, but it'll sound like a T. So we're going to focus on some letters that maybe don't sound exactly like English more today. So that's one thing we're doing. We're doing some more sounds. We're doing some more kind of follow-up practice with the greetings. We're going to talk more about all those different forms for you and why we need them. We're going to talk about, ¿qué más? We're going to talk about how to make nouns plural, which is super easy, super fácil. We're going to talk about 3 basic verbs that will start to become survival verbs. This starts to be kind of a weird topic. And hopefully we can squeeze in, what's this concept of masculine and feminine? For people and for things. So it's funky and it's weird, and it's something that English does very, very rarely, except for words like actress versus actor, which, and boy, that stuff's all going away. That gender stuff in English, if it's not gone now, it will be in about 30 seconds. The gender thing, by the way, is becoming an issue in Spanish. The Real Academia does not yet recognize gender neutral, but it is starting to happen anyway. So I'm going to make my official prediction. Real Academia is the official group of old guys from every single country that speaks Spanish. They all get together literally like for a week and decide what rules will we make official and what rules do we, you know, what do we recognize? What's changing in the language? And what will we recognize as we bless this? This is okay, you know, versus this is not okay. This is grammatically incorrect. I predict within about 5 years, it's going to start to happen, that there will be these issues regarding people only, where they'll start to grapple with and start to sanction some gender neutral stuff. They just met recently and they've said now, we're not doing it. Because it's too controversial yet, but give them 5 years. Okay. Muy bien. ¿Qué vamos a hacer? What are we going to do? Let's take a quick look at these greetings. And I want to focus a little bit on time of day issues. Time of day issues. So let's look at the buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. We're going to focus on that, plus the idea of asking, of greeting, and how are you? Greeting and how are you? And here's where it's going to already start to get sticky, because I want you to assume right now with the how are you business that you're talking to somebody you don't know. If you're a visitor, you know, un turista, a tourist, you need to assume at first meeting that you don't know people and that you're on a formal setting. A formal setting. So there are different ways to ask, how are you doing? We're going to assume that it's formal, formal, okay? So I'm going to want you to, I'm going to put you a little on the spot. I'm going to ask people to, I'm going to give you a time of day. Remember this from grade school? I'm going to give you a time of day, and I'm going to ask you to assume tú eres a turista, you're a tourist, and you're greeting and asking how are you to somebody you don't know from Adam, okay? Es la una, it's 1 o'clock. And I'm going to take my share screen off. Es la una, it's 1 o'clock. Danita, how would you greet somebody at 1 o'clock? And I don't mean like it's black outside. 1 p.m. How would you greet somebody and ask, how are you? And you'll need to unmute yourselves.
¿Cómo está usted?
¿Cómo está usted is good. And how would you greet them saying hello?
Hola.
Hola, maybe, sure. You can use that in a formal situation. How about, would this be good morning, good afternoon, good evening?
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Muy bien, muy bien. Okay. A ver. In the morning. De la mañana in the morning. Nora, how would you greet somebody at this hour of the day? De la mañana, in the morning. Por la mañana.
Buenos días.
Buenos días, right? Buenos días. And it's important to have buenos días. Buenos días. But this was buenas. We're going to learn today why. Okay. Now, the good doobies of you sometimes get really panicked. What if I say now I have to think really hard because I can't, this doesn't come out. What if I say buenos tardes instead of buenas tardes? Will somebody understand me? Yes, they'll understand you. You'll just sound a little off. Okay. They'll know you're gringo. So, buenas tardes, right? Sí, bien. De la mañana, in the morning, sí. Buenos días. Buenos días. We're going to get to a little, no, aquí. De la noche, at night. How would you greet somebody? Because by the way, at this hour, you would be just starting to eat dinner. There's a mind blower. This is the acceptable hour to start dinner. Larry, how would you greet somebody at this time?
Buenas noches. ¿Cómo usted está?
¿Cómo está usted? ¿Cómo está usted? Buenas noches. And es importante. Buenas noches. Buenas noches. ¿Cómo está usted? Okay. You can also, in a formal setting, say, ¿Cómo le va? ¿Cómo le va? ¿Cómo le va? Repitan, por favor. ¿Cómo? Le va. And the va is spelled V-A, but that V won't sound like V. It'll sound like B. It'll sound like a B, a soft B. ¿Cómo le va? ¿Cómo le va? Now, when you start sliding, and you're going to get for homework a video where she's going to show you how words start to slide together. It becomes not como le va, because that would sound like an, it's como le va. Como le va.
Como le va.
Como le va. Now that is what scares people, because words do slide together. just because in English you say, what are you gonna do today? And I didn't even say, what are you going to do today? I said, like we often say, what are you gonna do today? Yeah, and we slide all that stuff together. So every language does that, right? Okay, vale, muy bien. We're gonna take, okay, we're gonna get into some murky territory now. I want you to imagine that it's summertime. And this is PM. It's summertime. Think summertime, Arizona, and this is PM. Oh, you know what? Hang on. We're going to make this a little bit murkier. It's summertime. And how would you greet somebody?
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. This is still tardes. Afternoon. In the summertime, generally, it's still buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
In the summertime, you're okay, probably okay to say buenas noches if the sun is down. How long you say buenas tardes depends on the sun. It truly does. If it is dark, you know, if it is winter and it's already dark, then buenas noches is okay. Okay. But that buenas tardes, you know, you're looking at 6, 7 p.m. really till you get out of buenas tardes territory and into buenas noches territory. It's really about that late. That's just the way that people speak. Bien? Okay. Vale. ¿Hay preguntas? Any questions on that? Sí? No? Okay. Vale. Before I start with everything else, before I start into pronunciation, are there any burning questions you have from something that you practiced or read in chapter 1 that you want to kind of get off your chest, that you looked at and said, what the heck is that? Anything that looked really weird that you said, I just don't understand why that is what it is? I may have an
I have a
answer.
question,
Sí,
a
sí.
quick one. On encantado and encantada, is it the speaker's sex or is it the person listening's sex?
Buena pregunta. It is the speaker's sex.
But bienvenido is the other way. They specifically said, if I'm talking to a man, I use
Oh.
bienvenido.
Yes. Okay.
Are they
Oh, gracias, Nora. Gracias. Thank you. Qué buena pregunta. What a good question that is. Yes. The focus shifts. You meet somebody, right? You meet somebody and then you say, delighted to meet you. And there are a bunch of ways to say it. You can say mucho gusto, right?
Right.
Mucho gusto.
Then
You
there's
can
no
say,
problem.
right. Mucho gusto is always mucho gusto. Always. Mucho gusto. Always. Siempre. Always. Mucho gusto. It just means much pleasure. Okay. Mucho gusto. So that's one way after somebody introduces themselves, you know. Soy el guía del tour. I am the tour guide, right? And you say, mucho gusto. Mucho gusto. But if you say, I'm delighted to meet you, who's delighted? Who's delighted by meeting that? I, the person speaking. So because I'm delighted to meet you and I'm a woman, I would have to say encantada. 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 Encantada, literally delighted or enchanted. And that sounds really formal to us, but that's the way they say it. Encantada. If you're a gentleman and you're delighted to meet anybody, no matter who it is, it's encantado. Because the encantada or the encantado is telling how you, the speaker, feel. Encantada is describing your feeling upon meeting that person. And therefore, encantada takes on, this is how I feel.
Okay.
I don't say, oh, you know why that happens? It happens because I've left off a verb that you could formally use. I could formally say, estoy encantada. I am delighted.
Okay.
But I'm leaving off the I am. I'm just saying delighted.
Yeah.
So it would make more sense that for you to say, estoy encantada. I am, and I'm a female, I am delighted. But if I'm a guy, encantado, encantado, bien? But that greeting, bienvenido, is I'm looking at all of you. I'm looking at all of you. And that bienvenido is directed towards the people I'm looking at. Formally, because this is a group of both guys and gals, I can just use bienvenidos. Bienvenidos. Welcome to all of you. But that is pushed out on I am. You are the people who are welcome.
Mhm.
Bienvenidos is describing the people out in my audience. Now I say bienvenidos y bienvenidas because as people are becoming more inclusive, remember I said that, you know, Spanish was going to someday maybe start to recognize some of this gender neutral stuff. In many videos where I watch people explaining things, when I do my little research, a lot of people will use both bienvenidos, bienvenidas to make people feel included. But formally, it's okay to say just bienvenidos because bienvenidos, the masculine form plural, encompasses both male and females together in a group in Spanish. Buena
Okay.
pregunta. Okay, bien. Hay más preguntas. Any other burning questions from chapter 1 where it's like, what the heck is this? Some of it may become a little more obvious today. Un poquito más. Okay. Okay. Bien. Vamos a empezar. We're going to start with some of these letters. I want to start with some more letters because that's more the baby step thing. That's easier to do. 2 of these we're going to do together. 2 of them we're going to do experimentally, send you out to smaller groups to practice. But we'll always do the letter together first. I will show you the first couple letters we're going to work on together. We're going to work on che and de. Actually, I take that. No, yeah, we are. Che y de, che y de, che. Che is a separate letter in Spanish. It is separate. It is a 1 letter. It is 1 letter. I know it doesn't look like it, but it is che. And che is the only way that H gets a sound. This is the only way. It's only when C and H are together that H contributes to making a sound. And it sounds just like English. And that's why I'm not going to send you off into separate groups to practice the che because it's just too easy. Es tan fácil. It sounds like what you think it should. So we're going to do these together, right? And it sounds like our English CH. So we've got chico. Repitan, chico.
Chico. Chico.
Okay, now we've got a word, and actually this word comes from Nahuatl. This next word, this next word comes from actually an indigenous Mexican word. It is not really Spanish, but it came through indigenous Mexican languages into Spanish and then into the rest of the world. So we've got chocolate, chocolate,
Chocolate. Chocolate. Chocolate.
muy bien. Chocolate came to the rest of the world through the Spaniards who brought it from Mexico, from the indigenous Aztecs. So, okay. And it was like, you know, nectar of the gods stuff. And then of course the Spaniards said, how about azúcar? We'll put some sugar in this. And yeah. Ooh, okay. Next we've got the word mucho.
Mucho.
Mucho, which means much or a lot. Mucho. Mucho gusto, much
Mucho gusto.
pleasure.
Much.
Mucho. Mucho. Okay.
Mucho.
Next, we've got a word that we have borrowed into English, rancho.
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 And don't
Rancho.
focus on the R. If you can trill an R, good for you.
Rancho.
Okay,
Rancho.
magnifico. Rancho. Okay, next
Rancho.
we've got a word for joke. Chiste.
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 Next, we got
Chiste.
a word for the stuff that you chew, not
Chicle.
this part of your mouth, not that gum, but gum that you chew. Chicle.
Chicle.
If you're of a
Chicle.
certain age, you remember a brand of gum called Chiclets. Yeah. Is that even
Chicle.
still out there? Is that still a thing? No sé. I don't know. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to de. De is not too hard, and de is also forgiving. Here's what I mean. If you make a small mistake with de, don't ever sweat it. Don't ever sweat over this sound. De often sounds like D in English, a little softer, but D. But sometimes it sounds like this, the. When does it sound like the? It sounds like a TH sound if the D comes in between two vowels, or if it's the very last letter of a word. So D between two vowels, or D being the caboose of the train, hanging off the very, very end, the very last letter of a word will sound like the. So we've got these examples. Oh, whoops. I'm looking down. Okay, but D, not between two vowels, will sound like a regular D, okay? So a D that leads off as the first letter of a word, a lot of D's sound like D, like you think. But if the D is sandwiched between vowels, it'll sound like the. If it is the very last letter of the word, it'll sound like the. So we're going to look at the top here, the regular D's, and actually, yeah, the regular D's. We've got the word for where. This is an interrogative that will soon become really important because a lot of times you have to ask where. Okay. ¿Dónde? Repitan, ¿dónde?
Donde.
¿Dónde?
Donde.
D
Donde.
starts the word and D is
Donde.
in between. It's right next to an N. So it's going to sound like a D. ¿Dónde?
Donde.
Next, we got the word for play. Drama.
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 Next, we got another good survival word because it's also an interrogative. It's a question word. Quando.
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 Quando. Quando.
Quando.
Quando is when. And next, we've got the word for big or large. Grande.
Grande. Grande.
Next, we
Grande.
got a word that means inside. Dentro.
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 Dentro. Bien.
Dentro.
Dentro. All those are regular D. A little softer maybe than English, but still D. Okay? Donde, drama, cuando, grande, dentro. Vale. Vale just means okay. Vale. Okay. Muy bien. Here comes our TH sounds. And ooh, the first one has actually both a hard D and a soft D. Here's the first word. And this first word literally means truth. But when people say this as a question, they're asking this as like, really? So if somebody just says to you, verdad, they're saying, really? Is that right? They're asking you for confirmation if they use that as a question. So here's the word, verdad.
Verdad.
Repitan, verdad.
Verdad.
Yeah.
Verdad.
Okay, and I'm going to kind of exaggerate and show you my teeth and lips so that you can see. The next word means each or every. Cada.
Cada.
Repitan, cada.
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 If I say cada día, every day. Cada día. Like
Cada
buenos
día.
días, cada día.
Cada día.
Yeah, okay. The next word is I can. Puedo.
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 Here's an important phrase to know. No puedo.
No puedo.
No puedo. I can't.
No puedo.
Puedo.
Importante, muy importante. No puedo.
No puedo.
No puedo. No puedo. Okay, and the next is the word for freedom, which looks a little bit like liberty, because our word liberty comes from the same thing in the old Togo language of Latin. Libertad.
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 And there you see the D hanging off the end. So now I'm not going to send you off in groups to practice the D because, again, if you mess up and you say the D always as a D, people will totally understand you. You just have an accent. Welcome to the club. Okay. But now we're going to take a look at some other things. And when we get done with H, I will send you into smaller groups to just practice H. And the first two words are words that some of you pronounced on the recordings, and some of you messed up a little bit on this word. And I expect this because it's very, very hard for English speakers to remember that an H is silent. It's very hard. Really super hard. But the H, if it's not a CH, the H is always silent. You ignore it when you see it written, but you know, it in written form, it has to be there, but you're not here to write term papers in Spanish, you know. So you need to know when you see a word with an H, just ignore the H. So we're going to practice all these words, and I'm going to send you out only for 1 minute. And when I send you off into separate groups, person number one will say the first word, your partner says the next. Person one says the third word. The next person says the next, like that. You'll just toggle back and forth, okay? But we're going to do them all together here. So we've got hoy.
Hoy.
Hoy. Otra vez. Hoy.
Hoy. Hoy. Hoy.
And not hoy. Not hoy. Oops. We got somebody who got bumped out. Not hoy. You should not hear an H sound. Hoy.
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 Bien. Okay, the next one, and this is a key word. You're going to start to hear this at the end of today a lot. You're going to hear this for the next 3 sessions a lot. This is a verb by itself, and it means there is or there are, and it is a survival word for sure. So it's important to know how to pronounce this word, and it's just I.
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 Not
Ay.
hey. Yeah, everybody wants to say
Ay.
hey. Wow, and it's not like the horses eat hay. It's I.
I.
You know how in old movies or TV shows where they would have people speaking Spanish from Mexico, like old Westerns, and they say, ay, caramba, ay. That word I sounds exactly like this word I, but they're 2 different words I. That other I is an exclamation. It's like, say, ooh, yikes. Yeah, yikes, I, right? But this is the I that is the verb, I, there is, there are. Okay, next we've got the word for man, hombre, hombre.
Hombre.
Okay. Next we have the word honor, honor,
Honor. Honor.
honor.
Oh no.
Okay, the next one is hard, but it shows you that an H sometimes comes in the middle of the word. So if you find this one hard, normal, that's normal. Okay, es normal. It's alhambra.
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 When we see this word in English, it is pronounced Alhambra. Wow, that is really hard for me to hear. It is Alhambra.
Alhambra.
Alhambra. It is a place. It is a palace. It is a gorgeous palace. That's why it's capitalized. It's actually a place name. Okay. Next is a word that is almost hombre, but it's not hombre. It's hambre.
Hambre. Hambre.
Hambre means hunger. Hambre is the word that you use literally when you say that you feel hungry. In Spanish, you don't feel hungry. You have hunger. The way you say I am hungry is tengo, I have. Tengo hambre. Tengo hambre. But the word by itself for hunger is hambre.
Hambre.
Hambre and hombre are two totally different, unrelated words. And when you hear people anglicizing bad hombres, that is so bad. It is so, to the Spanish speaker, that is like the worst thing, is like mixing words. And what the heck do you mean? Hambre is hungry or hunger, and hombre is man. Okay, next we've got a nice word that you hear all the time. Hasta la vista, hasta mañana, hasta pronto. It's the word until. Hasta.
Hasta.
Yeah.
Hasta.
Next, we've got an H in the middle of the word, and it's buried in the middle, so it's going to be hard to ignore. You're going to have the letter O and A sliding together. Almohada.
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 Almohada. Okay. And next we got that wonderful word, alcohol.
Alcohol.
Oh.
And
Alcohol.
this is really hard because you are so used to alcohol. But those two O's are going to just sound like you're dragging out the O, and it's going to go into the next O. So you're going to drag the O out. Alcohol.
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 Okay.
Alcohol.
Alcohol. So that alcohol is gonna, your English brain literally wants to scream alcohol, but it's alcohol. No H in the middle. I'm gonna send you out into breakout groups, and bear with me because it's supposed to do this for me automatically. And for some reason it's not, so I've got to check out my settings. So I'm going to assign people just into groups. And wow, one of you is going to have a group of 3. So sorry about that, folks, because we're an uneven group. So here's what's going to happen. This is your big experiment. This is only going to last maybe 2 or 3 minutes, because that's all the time you should need, maybe 3 minutes. I want you to practice just those H sounds together, or in other words, ignoring the H sound. You're going to go off into a separate little room with one other person or 2 other people. And I just want you to take turns. You know, if I say the word hoy, my partner is going to say the next word, and then I get the 3rd word, and then my partner gets the 4th word. Okay, so just practice and kind of coach each other. If you hear your partner saying a ha, 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 let them know and say, try it again. When I open these rooms, you're going to have to look for a join button and hit that little join button. Otherwise, you won't go into the room. Okay, so I'm going to hit the button now. You're going to hit the join button and go off with your partner. You should see a join button now and practice just your H's. Oop, does everybody have a join? There we go. Hit your join button. And Nisha, if you have a join button, do you see a join button?
Oh, right now.
Ah, okay. Sometimes it takes a little while. Yeah. The miracle of technology. Bien. Bien. Okay. We got folks coming back. Okay.
Marilyn, would you
Aquí-
say kada again? Katha?
Cada.
Kada.
Cada.
Okay.
Cada. If you say cada, they'll know it's okay. They'll understand you totally.
Okay.
Ok, bien. Vale, magnífico. Una persona más. Wow, I'm waiting on one more person. Ok, aquí viene Nisha. Ok, muy bien. Excelente, excelente. Bien. Preguntas, questions? Do you have any questions about what you just practiced? Sí o no? And take yourselves off of mute. Sorry, when it brings you back in, it always puts you back on mute.
Can you repeat pillow? Just
Yeah, oh, difícil. That's a hard one. Es difícil. It's hard. Almohada.
Almohada.
Almohada. And the O-A will slide together. Almohada.
Almohada.
That's hard. That one is hard. Almohada. Bien. Okay. ¿Y más? Any more? No? Okay. Bien. Remember, Hay, I. That's one we're going to come back to late in our session. I. Okay. We're going to take the next letter J. This one is very, very hard for people who are native English speakers. If you want to have fun with this sound sometime, listening to it, to hear a native speaker saying it, go to YouTube, type in Rafa Nadal, R-A-F-A, Rafa Nadal. I'll put it down in the chat box. If any of you ever follow tennis, type in YouTube, Rafa Nadal, and just look for something where he's not speaking in English and just listen to him, not for 30 minutes. Who knows? He might have a whole bunch of interviews. You will hear the perfect Spanish. You will hear that sound at some point. It's a good listening exercise, but here we go. The J never sounds like sounds like in English, ever. J is never J. The name of the letter, by the way, is Jota. The name of the letter, right? They don't call it J, they call it Jota. And it's an H. It is like an English H, but it comes from here. So it's a great big phlegm wad. It's not just now. If all you can do, if you cannot produce the phlegm wad, if all you can pronounce is a h, an English H, again, you will be understood. You will be understood if you just do a h sound, but you'll sound like you have a kind of heavy accent. Yeah. So it should sound like h. And there's not a lot of regional variation. Pretty much everywhere where they speak Spanish, it's that. Rafa has one of the most pronounced h. Es mejor. He really chucks out the phlegm wad. Okay. But this is in a lot of Spanish words, this letter J, and you have to fight very hard your English brain to not do a J sound. So we're going to look at these sounds, and you are going to go off again for just 2 or 3 minutes. And by the way, was that time frame that I gave you? I gave you 3 minutes. Was that good or too much?
Too much.
Too much? 2 minutes?
Do.
Okay, because sometimes people pause with a word if they're struggling with it. This one you might have a little more difficulty with than the ignore the H. Okay, here's the first word. Ojo.
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 Ojo means literally your eye. If somebody just looks at you and says ojo,
Ojo.
They're telling you watch out, like you're gonna go walk out in traffic or something like that.
Ojo.
Or something's about to hit
Ojo.
you. Somebody's coming down the street really fast. Yeah. Okay. Next one. Jamon.
Amon.
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 Jamón.
Jamon.
Jamón.
And we punch that O sound more.
Jamón.
Jamon.
Jamón.
Okay. The next one only changes one letter in the middle, but instead of ham, it means soap. Jabon.
Jabón.
Jamón.
Jabon.
Jabón.
Okay.
Jabón.
The next is for short in height, like a person who's short. Okay. Bajo.
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 And,
Bajo.
and that B won't be a B. It won't be a strong B. Our English B's are what they call explosive. Our B's are hard, hard B's. This will be a kind of hard B, but not that hard. Bajo.
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 Okay, the next one is really hard because our H is going to hang off the end of the word. The word for this device right here. Reloj.
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 And we punch the end syllable more. Reloj.
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 Reloj. Reloj.
Okay. If any of you ever took German and you know that word ich, I am, or I, it's a little bit, or kind of like the Scottish word, you know, Loch Ness. Yeah, it's a lot like that word in you know, Celtic probably, Loch, a lake in Scotland. It's like that, huh? Reloj.
Reloj.
Okay.
Reloj.
Here's a word you hear a lot, the next one, a lot. It means better, mejor.
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 Okay. Here's the word for the day of the week, Thursday, jueves.
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 And that V is going to sound like a B.
Jueves.
It will not be, look at my mouth, it will not be jueves.
Jueves.
No, it'll be jueves, jueves.
Jueves. Jueves.
Your lips just come together. The V will sound exactly like a soft,
Jueves.
soft B. Jueves.
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 The next one is the word for woman. Mujer.
Mujer.
Mujer. Mujer.
Mujer.
The next word means to work. Trabajar.
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 And again, when you've got multiple syllables, if you need to slow it down, do that because supercalifragilistic, you know how that goes. Okay, trabajar.
Trabajar.
Yeah.
Trabajar.
I'm going to send you off into the same groups. I'm going to give you just 2 minutes now, so it helps me to know that 2 minutes was enough. So again, take turns, toggle back and forth, who gets, you know, which word, and work on just really focus on that sound, okay? Bien, 2 minutos, 2 minutes. Perdón, aquí, breakout rooms. And remember to hit your join button, el botón de... Ok, bien. Magnífico, aquí vienen los otros. Okay, here come the others pretty soon. Pronto, pronto, pronto. Pronto. It always takes a while, you know, and our Wi-Fi systems kind of sometimes slow that down a little bit. Okay, aquí vienen más. Here come more folks. Fantástico. Esperamos a Nisha. We're waiting on Nisha. ¿Y quién más? ¿Quién más? There are a couple more we're waiting on. You can take yourself off of mute. Again, it'll mute you when you come back in. I know. It's a little bit bothersome, I know. But it gets you used to those controls. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Ustedes van a ser expertos. You'll be experts with Zoom when we're done with class. Okay, bien. Preguntas. Any questions on that ha sound? Oh, and make you take yourself off of mute.
Could you do watch one more time?
Watch. Oh, yeah. And this is how I know that you've been in 2 minutes. Yeah. Reloj. Reloj.
Reloj.
Reloj.
Reloj.
Reloj.
Reloj. Okay.
Those J's were tough.
Yeah. Reloj is the same for a clock or a watch. It's the same word.
Reloj.
Okay. Magnifico. Okay. We're going to do, I will send you out on this next letter. This will be the last one where you do a separate breakout, and then we're going to do 2 short ones that are easier to do. Okay. This next letter, and let me put it up on the share screen here so you see where I am. The next letter is a 1-letter thing, just like che, 2 letters is really 1. The double L is really 1 letter. I know. This is the 1 letter that does have some regional variations. It will be pronounced slightly differently depending on where you go. It can range, and any of these ranges are okay, because people always ask with this letter, they become paranoid. Don't become paranoid. People always ask, oh, what's correct? What's the correct way to say it? Well, anything from a plain old y, okay, just like the Y sound in English, y.
Yeah.
Y is okay and understood by everyone.
Yeah.
Y with a slight j in front of the y sound is also okay. That is my preferred learned pronunciation. People say it sounds like you've got a j in there. Well, think of the movie Dr. Zhivago, which is spelled Z-H. Yeah. It's very slight, but I mean very slight in front of the Y. That is my preferred. Many regions naturally do that sound. Only the Dr. Zhivago, the really revved up zh, is only Argentina. Only. So if you are learning Spanish and you know, or you have friends in, or you have relatives in Buenos Aires, and you know you're going to Argentina, it is fully okay to rev up that zh and really rev it up. But that's the only place. And the minute that comes out of somebody's mouth, they think, oh, Argentino, somebody from Argentina, automatically, okay? So probably what you want to strive for is y, or that slight j in front of the y sound. So my accent is going to influence what you hear a little bit. So I'm going to pronounce each one of these words, and I want you to try these words with me. The first word is calls. Llama, llama.
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 The next is the word for key, like to a hotel room or a door. Llave.
Llave.
And again, that V sounds like a soft B. Llave. Llave. Okay, the next is street. Wow, there's an important word to know. Calle.
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 The next is pollo.
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 Chicken.
Pollo.
Yeah, pollo.
Pollo.
The next is the word for chair. Silla.
Sia. Sia.
The next is the word for yellow, the color yellow. Amarillo.
Amarillo. Amarillo.
Amarillo.
Amarillo.
The next, if you're in a store and you want to know a size, you want a size medium, and all you can find is large or small. Here's the word for size in clothing. Talla.
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 Okay.
Talla.
The next is the word for to cry. Llora.
Llora.
Oh, I'm sorry. I conjugated it. Llorar.
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 Llorar. Llorona is a movie that came out. Llorona. La Llorona is something that comes out kind of around Halloween time. It means the crying moon. La Llorona. And next we've got the word for there, like you're pointing to a place. Allí. Allí.
Allí.
Allí. Allí. Okay. So now here's how, if somebody's from Buenos Aires, this is how they'll say the word for street. Calle. Calle. It'll sound that strong. So don't strive for that one unless you know you're going to Buenos Aires. Calle. Calle. In Uruguay, in Argentina, that is the way they would pronounce that. Calle. And people very quaintly think, oh, wow, you're from that southern area down there, Buenos Aires. Okay, I am going to send you off 2 minutos, 2 minutes to practice your ya sound. Okay, bien, that is the last one we'll do for breakout room right now. And when we come back, we're going to do the ending, the last few sounds, and then we're going to do some grammar ease stuff. Bien, here we're going to breakout rooms. Remember to hit your join button. 2 minutos. 2 minutos. Muy bien, 2 más. We're waiting on 2 more people and then we'll start again. Remember to take yourself off of mute because if you have a question or something occurs to you and you want to interrupt me, feel free to do that, but you'll have to be off of mute, unmuted in order to do that. Okay. Bien, bien, bien. ¿Dónde está Nisha? Oh, we're waiting on Nisha. Got a couple more coming in. And we're going to rush through the last two letters because the last two letters for today are going to be easy. We will not do them in breakout room because they're not tough to do. They're not tough to do. Okay, bien. Preguntas, questions before we start our last two easy ones?
Could you
¿Sí o
do
no?
cry? Could you do cry one more time?
Llorar,
Llorar.
llorar.
Llorar. Llorar.
Llorar.
Bien. Okay. Vale. We're going to do, vamos a hacer, we're going to do the last two letters together, not in breakout room, because these two are not particularly tough because we have things in English we can associate them with. Okay. We've got the ñ. The ñ is an N with a little squiggly line over the top of it. This ñ, like the L, like the double L, like the che, is a single letter, but it is not the N by itself. It is ñ. This happened actually because of Latin. Latin, this used to be a double N. NN, like Anno Domini, Year of our Lord. ANNO was year. In Spanish, it became año. This happened because literally little monks who wrote manuscripts of Holy Scripture had to save room in parchment in writing. And they wrote an N with the second N on the top of it to save space. Who knew? Yes, because parchment was expensive and you didn't mess around with, stuff that was expensive. So it became a separate letter. And it always sounds like the NY sound of onion. That's why it's not hard. So we'll do these together, but I will not send you off into separate rooms. We'll do one column top to bottom and then the second column top to bottom. So we've got words like, I'll take it off the share. Here we go. We've got words like cañón,
Cañón.
Cañón.
Kenyon.
which
Cañón.
means what it sounds like. We've got
Cañón.
words like baño.
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 Baño. Baño.
Ooh, that's a survival word, yeah. Baño. We've got the word for damage or harm, daño.
Daño.
Daño. Daño.
Daño.
We've got the word for a little kid. This is like toddler, like up until about 5 or 6 years old. This is what you
Niño.
call it. Yeah, niño.
Niño.
Niño. Okay.
Niño.
Now we got a word that you use all the time, the word for tomorrow or morning, depending on the context, right? If somebody says hasta mañana, they mean see you tomorrow. But if they say por la mañana, they mean in the morning. Okay, so here's the word mañana.
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 Here's another word for size, not necessarily for clothing, but like when you're talking about the size of a car or, the size of a person. Tamaño.
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 Tamaño. Here comes a fruit word. Piña.
Piña.
Piña. Piña.
Here comes the word for this part of your body. A fingernail. Uña.
Uña.
Piña.
Uña.
Uña. So the ña is just ña. That's
Ña.
all it is, okay? And next we're going to take real quickly this combination. Normally you pronounce every letter in Spanish, but sometimes, here's an example of when the letter U will not make a sound at all. If it's in this combination, if you have the combination of QUE or QUI, then you don't pronounce the letter U. So it will not be pronounced cue, it'll be que.
Yeah.
Okay, and it will not be pronounced cui, it'll be ki. So whenever you see this sequence, QUE or QUI, and this is super important because a lot of the question words, like, what is this? What, the word what? So, it's an important word to know. So anytime you have the combination of QUE, QUI, ignore the U. So we've got words like this, and I'm looking top to bottom. Que.
Okay.
So it sounds like a letter K and that, and, K and E. Que. All right. We have the word for who. Quien.
Again.
¿Quién?
We've got the word for 15. And we have there is something in English called quince. It's not quince, it's quince.
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 Quince. We've got below it the word that means I want. Quiero.
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 Quiero. Okay.
Quiero.
We're looking at second column. The word why, it's actually two words. ¿Por qué?
¿Por qué?
¿Por qué?
¿Por qué?
We have a food word here. Queso.
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 Queso. Queso.
We have the word that means fifth, like fifth in line, not five of something, but fifth in line or fifth floor of a building. Quinto.
Quinto.
Quinto. And we have a word for a package or a packet of something. Paquete.
Paquete.
Paquete. Paquete.
Paquete. So que and que and ki. Okay. Part of your homework. And unlike last week when I messed up because that was my mistake that the pronunciation place went into the wrong file. And I've got it fixed. I've created myself a new file to make it easier for me to find stuff so I don't mess up like I did last week. I will want you to practice your H, your J, your L, your N, your que. Just those, nothing else, just those. So these kind of more challenging things, the H, which is silent, the J sound of J, the J sound of the double L, the Nya sound of the N, and the que. You're just going to do those. I will also send you a video that's going to preview our two sounds for next week. Our two sounds for next week are the letters C and G. C and G. C can make two sounds. G can make two sounds. The C can make a hard or a soft sound. The G can make a hard or a soft sound. Which one they use depends on the letter that is after the C, the letter that is after the G. But they follow similar patterns. They'll be hard when a particular letter is here. They'll be soft when a particular letter is there. And they kind of follow a similar pattern. So I want you to preview those two sounds. There'll be two videos for you to watch that will focus just on those sounds, but that will be for you to preview for next week. When you're recording, don't record C and G. Record only H, J, L, N, que, ki, all right? But I want you to preview and think about and practice the C and the G on your own after you watch the videos. Bien? We're good with that? Okay. Vale, muy bien. We're going to do some grammar talk. We're going to do some grammar and concepts. Yeah. This is going to be a conceptual thing. We're going to revisit this idea of you, the many different yous. I'm going to share with you that the one you that generally you folks do not need to worry about is vosotros. You should be familiar that it is out there. Vosotros is you guys if you're talking in a friendly way to a group of people in Spain, only in Spain. I had to learn vosotros because I went to Spain many times. And I had to learn it because if you go down to the bar in the morning, I know it was a bar, it was a coffee bar in the morning, and you greet everybody, you better use vosotros because it's everybody and you're talking to the whole group. And they were a group of pals, everybody the same age, so it was vosotros. But the ones you need to worry about are tú, usted, and now you know that usted, and I'll put the no, actually I'll put them up in the little I'm going to put them up in a share screen box. I'll put it up in here so that you can see it more easily. The words are tú, which is called the friendly or the informal you, it's only to one person. And we only use this with somebody you call by their first name. If you call that person by their first name, you are going to use tú with them. If somebody is the same age as you, if you are talking to a kid, you use tú. If you're talking to a little kid, always use tú, okay? Somebody the same age, we say that with teenagers because it would sound very stilted for two teenagers to talk to each other using usted. It would sound too formal. But with adults, if you're the same age, basically it's if you're, you know, if you would call somebody by their first name, you can use tú, okay? This word, usted, and it is abbreviated this way. You will often see it as UD period, but that is just an abbreviation for the long word usted. And there you hear that THD sound at the end, that last usted, usted. Usted is the formal you, the formal you, the polite you. And it is talking to one person. Okay, you're addressing one person. And the general rule of thumb is if you would call that person by their last name, use usted. Use usted. Use usted if you would call them, if you don't know them, if it's just somebody you walk up to on the street, if it's somebody you just walk up to in the store, use usted. Okay, bien? Now, how do you know? There are times when you will shift from usted mode to tú mode. If you're in a long conversation with somebody, and I'll give you an example. I know some folks in one of my Wednesday night classes, they rent a little casita down in a little town in Mexico. And when they go into the local store to get their supplies, when they first get into the casita and they're starting their, 1 month stay, they often start off using usted with the person behind the counter, but by the end of that encounter or by the next day, they slip into tú, talking to that person. Generally, the person will signal to you by using tú to talk back at you. They will signal to you, it's okay to use tú. If that person in the store knows they're going to see you every day, they're going to slip into tú mode. They will, they just will. And then that's the signal to you to start speaking to them using tú instead of being on formal usted. In Spain, it is very, very fast to slip from usted mode into tú. In Mexico, it kind of depends on the situation. Considered a little more polite to stay in usted mode, okay? There is also this you, which is ustedes. It is often abbreviated as UDS, but it's always pronounced ustedes. And this is you to a group. So if I talk to all of you, I really have to use ustedes because I'm seeing a group of you guys. This is the plural you that is used everywhere. It is used in Spain, it is used in Mexico. It is the only plural you used in Latin America. In Latin America, they never use vosotros, okay? They only use ustedes to say plural you.
There's no masculine, feminine in ustedes.
No, buena pregunta. That is a really good question. There is no masculine and feminine with the word you. No existe, it does not exist. The idea of feminine, I mean, it does in your mind, but yeah. With other words, it will be, but not with the word for you. Okay, so we're going to take a little look at this, and you'll don't feel you must take notes on this, folks. Just look at it, because you'll get I'll give you the link to this. And if you want to print it off or take notes later, that's great. Why the heck do we do this? Okay, in Mexico, Sudamerica, we only use the top three. Tú, Usted, ustedes. And that tú has an accent mark, by the way, only because there is a different word tú with no accent mark. But the word tú with no accent mark means your, like your husband, your friend, your, belonging to you, but not the human being that's, hey, you. Yeah, okay. Bien. So, this just talks about how we abbreviate those words, usted and ustedes. It also tells you about how that word came to be, so you can read that for your, yuck it up with that. Usted really came out of a setting of you called somebody formal you, because he was like a lord, you know? Yeah. It came literally from the term that said, your grace. Yeah. Because it wasn't America. We were not all born equal, folks. That's Europe. We were not all born equal. You were a peon, you were born a peon, you died a peon. That whole thing of people having Cinderella, it was a fantasy. No one was born as a nobody who was digging potatoes. Well, in those days, it weren't potatoes, digging rooted vegetables out of the ground for the Lord and Master. Nobody was born in that, and then he married her and carried her off to the castle. That did not happen. If it did happen, he carried her off as his mistress. He didn't marry her. Yeah, fantasy land. Okay. Which form of you is important? Okay. Let's see if you can guess. If I'm speaking to somebody saying you, would I address the following people as tú, usted, or ustedes? How about this person at the chalkboard?
Usted.
Usted.
Generally usted. Now you guys with me, not usted. No, tú with me, because, you know, really, you're not kids. If I'm talking to, you know, little teenagers who used to talk to me, yeah, usted with me, so that they got used to it, because it was rude not to. Usually usted, okay, for little kids. How about here, the guy next door?
Two.
Tú. Yeah, tú. Bien. You know, maybe when you first meet him, usted, but after that it slips into tú very, very fast. Tú. How about this? I am looking at a field of people with their hands up.
Ustedes.
Ustedes.
Ustedes. That one's got to be
Ustedes.
ustedes. Okay. Okay. Juan, which one? Tú, usted, or ustedes? We're looking at this guy. He's ringing up all of our groceries.
Usted.
Usted. Or
Usted.
two.
I know. Well, probably not tú. Probably okay. Depende, depends. Tú, if you see the same guy every day, because it's in a little store, and if he has a name that says, you know, Jose, that doesn't mean you can use tú with him. You know, hi, I'm Joe, I'm Harry, I'm Susana. Yeah, no. Even if he's got a name tag, don't use tú with somebody in a store unless you see them every day or you've seen them a lot, right? With people in a store setting or an office setting, always polite to use usted. How about this, grandma and a grandkid?
Two.
Usually tú. Usually tú with family. And there are some regional variations. In Colombia, you hear a lot of family members talking to each other using usted, but in most places, it will be tú with family members, tú. Grandma talking to the grandkid, little kid talking to grandma, tú, because familiar, it's a family setting. How about talking to a whole bunch of little kids?
Ustedes.
Ustedes. Ustedes. Okay, so the ustedes is easy. Oh, okay. These two folks are greeting this one guy, and they're all in business attire.
Usted.
Usted. Muy importante, really important. Always, always, always. This would be a huge faux pas to use tú with somebody when you're just meeting them. And this guy greeting these two.
Ustedes.
Ustedes. Ustedes. Juan, you're talking to a little kid.
Two.
Tú. Even if you don't know him from Adam, tú. Okay? Oh, you're greeting the Queen of England.
Usted.
Usted, or it's off with your head. Yeah, right. Okay. See. Okay. Now, if I were in Spain and I were in this group, if I were in Spain, I would probably, it depends on my footing.
Ustedes.
It might be ustedes because it's a business setting. It might be vosotros, depende. It really depends on how well I know those people. It might be ustedes in a business setting, but everybody's hanging out for the game. In Spain, it would be,
Two.
in Spain, it would be vosotros.
Ah.
Everywhere else, this group of people is ustedes, right?
Ustedes.
In Spain only, a bunch of buds, everybody together for a big game, it's vosotros. But just so you know what that is. Okay? And I'll send you that little thing to kind of check yourself later on. Okay, so that's the thing. So now let's go back to the idea of,
I have a question. So
Oh,
two is,
sí, sí.
two is only if you're familiar with them. If you're familiar with a group of people, it would still be ustedes, even though you knew them all well.
right, it'll still be right. Ustedes is plural you. So in other words, in Spain, plural buddy you is different from plural formal you. In Spain, it is different. Everywhere else, they don't do that. As a matter of fact, people in Latin America don't really like vosotros at all, because what it means to them is, oh my God, you're going to use that other separate verb and I don't know what it is. I mean, I know what it is, but I don't ever use it. So yeah, on this side of the Atlantic, ustedes for plural you, boom, that's it. That's the only one you got to worry about. Okay, buena pregunta, really good question. A ver. So why is this you thing important? We're going to take a real quick look, and this is just a super quick look. Super rápido. Which you use is going to start to affect things like verbs. So these expressions for greetings like ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está? Está is a verb. How is you? How are you? But friendly, está gets an S at the end. ¿Cómo estás? So it's a really subtle thing. Estás is the familiar verb form. Or in this case, the verb doesn't change, but the pronoun changes. ¿Cómo le va? How's it going for you, the formal you? ¿Cómo te va? How's it going for you? Yeah, the buddy, you. Bien? Okay. Bien. So that's why that becomes important. Ooh, wow, I'm running short on time. Okay. We're going to talk about one other quick concept. The quick concept, two quick concepts. One quick concept is the verb I. That verb you practice, I means there is and there are. It never changes. It is always I. In all situations, it is I. I'm going to give you a video to watch. A lot of it is going to sound like you don't know what they're talking about, except that they got pictures to show you, and that's okay. It might feel a little uncomfortable. It is okay. It is merely to introduce you to why we use the word I. I is just used to say that something exists. It's just out there. So we use the verb I when we want to ask, is there a pharmacy around here? Is there a taxi available? Okay. I does not specifically talk about location. Okay. I just says something is out there. So this video you're going to see is going to show you how we use I to talk about what's inside a fridge. If somebody walks into your house and wants to know, hey, what you got in the fridge? You might say, oh, you know, there's some beers in there. There's some chilled water, there's some fruit, there's some wine. Take whatever you want. We might use this verb hay.
Hey.
Okay, so this video is going to show you with a bunch of words you don't know, which is okay because she's going to show you visually how we use I. And it doesn't matter if I'm talking about a bunch of things, I use I, or just one single thing, I use I. Okay, always I. So they're going to show you that I, and we'll come back and talk about that a little bit more next week because there are different ways we use I. The second big concept I want to plant in your brains is the fact that all nouns, and nouns are people, places, things. All nouns in Spanish are either masculine or feminine. Really easy when you're talking about people. Really hard when you're talking about things. 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 It sounds weird to the English speaker that the word for book is masculine. There's no reason, it just is. Well, it is because Latin did it as well, okay? So you have to kind of change your mindset. All things will be either masculine or feminine. And sometimes you can tell from the way that a word is spelled or from the last letter of a noun if it is masculine or feminine. Okay, so I'm going to send you with off with a different video to watch that will explain that a little bit. Sometimes we can tell from the way the word sounds if it is masculine, feminine, and the short answer is that most, notice I don't say all, most nouns that end in o are masculine. Chico, niño, carro, car. Most, but not all. Some violate that rule. Most, but not all, nouns that end in the sound a are feminine. Chica, niña, escuela, taza. Most, but not all. Dia, the word for day, is not feminine. Sounds like it should be. Dia ends in a, but it's el dia, the day. It's a masculine noun. I know. So some things will violate those rules, but most words obey those rules. Not all nouns end in o, masculine. Not all nouns end in a, feminine. Some end in different letters. You just have to know. But I will send you a little cheat sheet that'll tell you, here are clues to look for that tell you if a word is masculine, if a noun is masculine or feminine. I'm going to send you in your email a little file so you can see what that's about. So what are you going to do for homework? Son las 11, we're at 11. Some people may have schedules to keep. I want you to pronounce for me. I'll send you the link. I want you to pronounce for me on the right file. That's on me. I want you to pronounce for me your harder letters that we did today. The J, the letter J, the H, the silent H, the L, the double L, the Nya. I will have you pronounce the Enye, the Enye sound, and the Ke, Ki. Q-U-E, Q-U-I. So you're going to pronounce that. You're going to read through chapter 2. You're going to start to see a whole bunch of very scary things that are verbs. You're going to start to see the verb estar, which means to be. You're going to start to see the verb ser or es or son, which also means to be. You're going to start to see hay. There is, there are. Sadly, in Spanish, there are two verbs that both mean to be, but you use them in different circumstances. Just kind of go with the pattern. It will be practiced later. But go through chapter 2. I'll send you the audio for chapter 2. I'm going to send you videos for masculine, feminine, a video for I. It's kind of entertaining. Que más, que más? I'll send you all the links to our little slides that you saw today. I was going to get to plural of nouns, but we'll leave that for next week, la semana que viene. I think that's probably going to be enough to send you off with. Yeah. ¿Sí? ¿Verdad?
Oh, sí.
Yes.
Es basta. It's enough. Basta. Basta. Okay. Vale. If you ever have questions in the middle of the week, always feel free to email me. A-OK. No question is dumb because, you know, you have a question. That's okay. Está bien. Vale, magnífico. Eso es todo. That's it, because some of you may have schedules or other meetings to go to. Bien.
Muchas gracias.
Excelente. Ustedes son magníficos. You guys are great. Ustedes son magníficos. Son geniales. You guys are great. Nos vemos el martes. I'll see you on Tuesday.
Hasta
Adiós.
luego.
¿Está bien? Your email will come with all the links. Bien. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Marilyn, can I ask you a quick question?
Sí, 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 por favor.
Earlier when you were typing, you got the accent to come up over the U. How'd you do that on your keyboard?
Because I have a little magic thing called an extra keyboard, which I tell it to insert, and I have a toggle which goes between keyboards.
Okay.
If you work on Microsoft Word, if you don't know how to insert a keyboard, you can alternately in Microsoft Word hit the special character on the top bar and tell it to type in the vowel with that accent mark.
Okay, thank you.
For me to tell you how to get that keyboard will vary depending on what kind of computer you have. So I don't want to tell you how to do it because I won't know what kind of computer you have. But you know what might help? Google, how do I get a Spanish keyboard? Just put that in Google. It'll tell you how to do it on your system or on a whole bunch of different systems, on Mac, on
Okay.
Android, whatever. Yeah.
Gracias.
Buena pregunta. Gracias, Larry. Okay.
What city is the picture behind you?
Oh, es Toledo. This is Toledo. Es la vieja capital. It is the old capital, like from the Middle Ages in Spain. It is about 50 miles outside of Madrid, right in the center of the country. It is a little medieval city. It still has the walls. Yeah. It's largely a tourist city now, you know, tourist center. But it kind of changed hands a lot between Arabic invaders, Spaniards, Celtic folks. It was it's a very cool city to visit as a tourist because it has architecture from 3 different cultures, from Jewish culture, Islamic culture, Christian culture. It is a great blending of cultures city still because of its ancient nature. So yeah,
Gracias.
it's Toledo, not Toledo, Toledo.
Elena.
I imagine Toledo in Ohio probably kind of stole that name, but you know, that's okay.
Gracias.
So Marilyn, I want to share with the people who are still on here. So earlier today, my wife and I were able to go on ArizonaHealth.com and get appointments for our vaccinations. So they're available if you're over 65 as of today.
You could.
You had to go
How
out.
hard was it?
Well, 6-7 days we tried. I got one on the 6th. My wife got one on the 12th of February. So they're different days, but we at least got them. So it's worth trying.